It is the Browns and the Broncos to close out Week 13 on Monday night. The Browns are very bad on offense. The Broncos are very good on defense, which might explain some of these numbers here. We'll get into all of that. Plus, is Bo Nix now the presumptive offensive rookie of the year? His late season charge has been great. We'll break it all down on the pregame power-up, and it starts right now. And with that, we are off and running in the month of December with our first Monday night pregame power-up as we gear up toward the stretch end of the season. Glad you're with us. Trey Wingo here with Claudia Bellafato. Marshall Newhouse will join us. Emerson Lazio will join us. We're presented by Campbell's Chunky Soup that eats like a meal. We've got a lot to get into. Is Josh Allen the new front runner for MVP?
Yes.
He did something Sunday night nobody's ever done before in the history of the NFL. We'll get into that. What would you do if your quarterback was hit on Sunday the way Trevor Lawrence was hit on Sunday? And could the Bears screw it up again? The answer is yes. We'll get into that a little bit later, but first the numbers tonight as Denver hosts Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton of movement, to be honest, when it comes to this side. I know we talked about this before. Why is it at 6.5? There's always going to be resistance, really, with any team when it comes to that key number of 7, but specifically with a squad and a quarterback that's very easy to get behind and rally behind, and we're all happy to see Jameis Winston get the win. But to be honest, it's really tough to slow down a Broncos team that is finding rhythm. Bo Nix has seen a ton of money and bets come in offensive rookie of the year over the last week. So it'll be interesting to see this matchup of the defense and offense, like you mentioned. And as far as total goes, the look-ahead line was 40, got bet up to 42, settling around 41.5. So not a ton of action really on side or total. I think we're in for a good game. I'm just excited to watch Bo Nix.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because a lot of people were like, wait, Denver, you did what when you took Bo Nix with a 12th overall pick in the draft? First time we had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12 picks ever. And it has been an absolutely pleasant surprise for Bo Nix. After a little bit of a rocky start, he's quickly emerged as a Rookie of the Year contender with his play over the last few weeks. In the Broncos' Week 12 win against the Raiders, Nix threw for 273 yards and 2 touchdowns, breaking Denver's rookie record of 14 touchdown passes set by Marlon Briscoe back in 1968 when it was still the AFL against the NFL. So let's take a look at Nix specifically over the last 3 weeks. He joined Dak Prescott as the only rookie quarterbacks in NFL history to have 8 or more touchdown passes and 0 interceptions over a 3-game span. He has at least 2 touchdown passes and no picks in each game since Week 10. By the way, that is tied for the longest streak by a rookie quarterback since 1950. Why is 1950 significant? That's when the NFL started taking this stat thing seriously. That's as far back as they can go on these type of numbers. That's why it's significant. And Nix has significantly closed the gap on Jaden Daniels, the Commanders' rookie quarterback, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But Bo knows he just got to keep doing the thing that Bo's been doing.
Not really. All I can focus on is, the next game, the next opponent, what I can do to win, what I can do to help the team win. And right now, that's just executing. But there's always going to be the off the field things, and it doesn't matter if you don't play well. So, all I'm concerned about right now is the next opponent, and that's Cleveland. We just got to play well and continue to do the things that we've been doing the past couple of weeks, leading up to this game.
Okay, so here's a look at the odds for Offensive Rookie of the Year throughout the season. Nix was a long shot at 35-1 prior to Week 3, and Daniels was the heavy favorite at 30-1 prior to Week 11. However, but a huge swing over the last couple of weeks has seen this race become relatively even, and Nix has a chance to overtake Daniels in the odds with a solid performance against the Broncos tonight. As for Cleveland, Claudia, they're going with the future inspirational speaker at quarterback, Jameis Winston.
And Trey, we've been blessed with some snow games as of late. Last night, of course, we saw Josh Allen and the Bills roll over the Niners in a Buffalo blizzard. Last week, though, Jameis Winston did his thing in the Cleveland snowfall. He and company upset the Steelers 24-19 last time out for the Browns' third win of the season. Winston's touchdown scramble through the snow gave us one of the best visuals of the year, and overall the offense has looked a little bit better and a little bit prettier under Jameis. Issue is, though, when we come to first and trend, a lot of the trends are against Jameis. Look what he's done after a win. 9 straight losses as an underdog, which they are, like I said, a 6.5-point dog in this game. Just 1 in 10. One game they have won straight up in the last 11 against the AFC West. And him in particular, he hasn't won consecutive games since week 5 and 8 in 2021 with the Saints. He hasn't won consecutive games. That is not a great stat to be having tonight. Now, the last time out, speaking of the Saints, of course, he was with the sideline of Sean Payton. He's going to be facing his former coach tonight. They spent a couple seasons together in New Orleans. Jameis started the 2021 season, and that had them off to a 5-2 start before torn ACL ended his season. Against Payton, Winston has found much less success, a 3-6 record in 9 starts against his former coach. But Winston remembers those Saints days fondly and talked this week about how much he learned during his time under Payton.
I would say his aura, right? His essence, him being authentically himself. And I think that won me over so much because from a head coach perspective, I haven't really seen that much personality in my head coach. Bruce Arians was a great example. He did have personality, but that was my first year with him. So it was kind of like a fill-out process. I've known him since I grew up, but what Sean possessed was a leadership quality that was so important to our team at the New Orleans Saints because, I've always put Drew on this pedestal, and I knew it was Drew's team, but in a sense, Sean was one of our biggest leaders, our biggest, our hardest workers, and definitely he was a leader among men, and that's how I put it. He was one of the best leaders I've been around.
We love to hear Jameis Winston talk, and we'd love to see him play well, but it might be tough tonight against Sean Payton's defense. On paper, it looks like a huge mismatch. Entering this week, the Browns offense ranked last in the NFL in yards per play and sacks, while the Broncos defense leads the NFL in both heading into this week. Denver has allowed less than 20 points in 9 games this season. That's the most in the NFL, while Cleveland has scored less than 20 points in 9 games this season. That's also the most in the NFL. But the two teams, they did score over 20. Jameis and the two times they did score over 20, there we go. Jameis, their $4 million quarterback, was under center, and they won both of those games. Not their $230 million quarterback, Trey.
That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother show. But Bo Nix, just to put in perspective, really, forget the rookie numbers, how he's doing overall. He has 5 games this season as a rookie with at least 2 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Only Hall of Famer Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson have had more such games for Denver in a single season. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about in comparison to everybody that's ever played quarterback for the Broncos. So for more on the game tonight, let's head to the DraftKings trading floor where VSiN's betting analyst Stormy Bonatoni is with us. All right, Stormy, let's put you in a very difficult spot. What are the biggest prop bets you're seeing for Bo Nix considering the numbers that we've just talked about?
Oh, yeah, so tough, Trey, because nobody likes Bo Nix right now. No, everybody's very heavily invested in Bo Nix, and you threw the Bo Knows out there, so I'll throw in one as well. The betting public believes Bo knows how to cash their tickets today because we've got 91% of bettors coming in and saying he's going to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. 90% of bets taking the over 227.5 passing yards. The anytime touchdown, the rushing numbers, whatever it is, bettors are taking the over, which has also caused a little juice on the no interception prop. And call me square if you want to, but I'm drinking the Bo Nix Kool-Aid myself. I have that in pocket. Bo Nix not to throw an interception tonight at -130. You guys laid out some of the numbers so nicely. The last 3 games for him, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. The last 5, 12 total touchdowns, just 1 interception. You look at his 6 picks on the entire year, 4 of them came in the first 2 weeks of the season. He is a very different dude now than he was at the beginning of the year, and facing a Browns defense that's one of the worst in the league at turning over the football. Just 2 interceptions for them in terms of the takeaways this season. So I am with the public. Let's go, Bo.
And like I mentioned at the top, there's always going to be that sort of resistance going from 6 in the hook to 7, regardless of who is on the other side of this. And then there's also going to be those folks out there who say, yeah, but he's a rookie. We could see some regression. All of that said, Denver's the best in the NFL right now against the spread at 9-3. What's the action looking like in terms of sides, Stormy?
Yeah, last I checked the percentages, it was around 69% of bets, 74% of the handle coming in laying that number with the Broncos. And it has been bet up, right, from 5.5 to 6. But like you said, 6.5, excuse me. But like you said, that is a pretty good resistance point for where things sit. This Broncos team has covered a lot, though, regardless of situation, as an underdog, as a favorite. The last 6 instances of them being a favorite, they've covered the number. So I know some people, it's hard to imagine, oh, the Broncos laying near a touchdown. I don't know. More often than not, people are feeling comfortable actually laying that number against this Browns team.
All right, Stormy, we've talked about how difficult this Denver defense is to go up against. Some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL have not done well. So now I'm going to give you the impossible choice. Where are the bettors looking at props for Browns players? And by the way, from my personal fantasy standpoint, if you said David Njoku, I would not be upset.
I will give you some positive news then. Yes, David Njoku, a staple, obviously, of the Browns offense. People think he's going to continue to be involved. They also really like a Jerry Jeudy revenge game angle. We're seeing a lot of over money on his over 59.5 receiving yards. Jameis Winston as well. His passing yards prop was bet up 13 yards. Now that it has kind of peaked at that 236.5, we're seeing a little bit of buyback on the under. So those are some positives. One negative in the prop market, though, in a big way, is Nick Chubb and his rushing yards. Those yards have been bet down from 64.5 to now I think I last saw 53.5 rushing yards for Chubb, and they're still taking money on the under. Makes sense, taking on a defense here that is top 6 against the run and a Browns offense that has struggled to run the football all season long. But that's kind of the way things are playing. I know you asked me for mostly positive, but I had to give you the truth
fair.
As well here, Trey.
You're doing your job, and I respect the hell out of you for it. I just want
We love transparency, Stormy. That's all we can ask for. You mentioned it, though. Chubb has struggled on the ground. They've been dealing with some injuries in terms of wide receivers. Cedric Tillman out for the Browns. So, yes, a big game for their tight end. But on both sides, there are spots where we see them slow down and get handicapped. I want to talk about this total. The over is 12-3 in the Browns' last 15 road games, 6-2 in the Broncos' last 8 games overall. And when we see these two match up, although it's different rosters, different seasons, I don't really like this stat. But, Stormy, that too, 4-2 over the last 6 to the over. So lots of overs. How are people approaching this total tonight?
It's actually pretty interesting from a betting splits standpoint because the public feels a little bit more divided here than we usually see on these big primetime totals, where you got about 59% of the bets that are on the over, but 74% of the money coming in, which shows you that that sharp money does think this will be a higher scoring game. But Claudia, you mentioned off the top of the show, kind of peaked out at 42 and came back at 41.5. So that's the sweet spot where we're sitting here right now. The majority of the money on the over. But this is, these primetime games have been weird this season, more overs than unders that we're accustomed to seeing throughout the course of the year. But when you follow the money, the respected money is telling you the over is the side. For me, I don't know about how you guys feel on this. I think there are better ways to bet this type of a game, and I like wiggle room. So I like the Broncos. I like them to win. I don't like near a touchdown. I put a same game parlay together, taking the Broncos -2 and over 35. Because the thing about Jameis Winston, too, you talk about all of the volatility. He can get you points, but he can also gift wrap points to the other team. So that mid-35 range just seemed much safer for me than the 41.5, and same thing with the Broncos at the spread.
All right, so let's go from the micro of the game to the macro of the season. We talked about how close Bo Nix has come to maybe overtaking Jaden Daniels for the Rookie of the Year. Where are you putting your money if you had to put it right now on who's going to get that?
Yeah, it's a 2-horse race where things sit right now. If I had to, I like taking plus money on the player who is ascending in Bo Nix. It's hard not to compared to laying -225. But Bo Nix, it's hard to deny the way that he's been playing. But you're not getting the 18-1 or the 25-1 you could have got a couple weeks ago. So it's not my favorite bet on the board, I got to say.
Well, listen, at some point, Brock Bowers has got to be in on this conversation with the thing he's doing, especially if you like plus money. That might be a place if you want to maybe stash something because he has been putting up unbelievable numbers. Stormy, as always, we appreciate the information. Thank you very much. We are just getting warmed up here in the pregame power-up. Former teammates, the focal point of these offenses tonight. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton have emerged as the top targets for their quarterbacks, but one of them may have a tough time getting the ball tonight. We'll break it all down when the pregame power-up continues. Pregame power-up is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. We continue in the pregame power-up presented by Campbell's Chunky. It is soup that eats like a meal. You know, you always like a good revenge game, right? Especially late in the season when maybe one team isn't playing for as much as the other team, so maybe there's extra motivation. People forget sometimes that Jerry Jeudy was the 15th overall pick in the 2020 draft, played 4 seasons for the Denver Broncos, of course, was traded away for a pittance when Sean Payton came in, and when he was asked about the idea of going up his old team, he didn't hold back. My feelings, you can read, I just want to go back up there and whip that you know what. He made clear that that's what he intends to do. Of course, that might be exceedingly difficult when you consider who he might be paired up against in this matchup. Again, Jeudy was traded to the Browns per his request. In 4 seasons with Denver, caught 211 passes for over 3,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, but Jeudy felt like Sean Payton wasn't using him properly, and he wanted out. But tonight he faces his old team and an old teammate in a very brutal matchup for the Browns' top receiver. Jeudy is expected to draw Patrick Surtain in coverage, and that usually means a quiet night for someone going up against Patrick. He's one of the best in the business right now, and the numbers back it up. When quarterbacks target Surtain in coverage, it doesn't go well for them. He's got the lowest quarterback rating against all cornerbacks in the NFL. And both of these guys did not shy away from talking about the matchup when asked about it heading into the game.
Would you expect him to follow you everywhere on Monday night?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And
even into the slot.
Huh?
Even in the slot.
You know, Pat, great DB, it don't matter where you're outside, he gonna follow. What makes him special is just how smart he is. You know, he's long, he's fast, You know, he for a big dude, he know how to get out his breaks. You know, so that's what makes him special.
I think he's gonna be fired up. Obviously, you know, I mean, this was his past team, so I think he's gonna have a lot of juice going, a lot of juice flowing. That's just the type of player he is. He's very competitive, and he's going to be looking to get after it. And, you know, I'm looking forward to the matchup. It's going to be a great matchup. So I already know the type of person he is, his competitive structure. He's going to be ready. So.
Well, he's going to need to be ready going up against you, Patrick. Surtain will have his work cut out for him, though, because since Jameis took over as the Browns quarterback, Jeudy is fourth in the NFL in receiving yards per game. With Winston, his receptions have doubled, his yardage nearly tripled, and he's averaging 9 targets per game, Claudia.
So he got what he wanted, some more action. His former teammate has been thriving as of late, though, with his new quarterback. Last week, Courtland Sutton had 8 catches on 10 targets for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. He leads the Broncos in catches, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns this season, but it didn't start off so well with this rookie in Bo Nix. In Week 7 against the Saints, Sutton didn't even catch or see a single target, but since then, he's been one of the best receivers in the NFL. He leads the NFL with 467 receiving yards since Week 8, with at least 70 yards in each of the last 5 games after having 0 such games in Weeks 1 through 7. Both Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton credit more reps and more practice time as the reason they have developed into one of the best quarterback-wide receiver tandems in the NFL. And Sutton says it only goes up from here.
It's only going to continue to keep growing. I think that you look at some of these quarterbacks that have these dynamic duos with certain receivers. I think that, you know, they have the success. They have some success early on, but you look at like a Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers when they were in Green Bay. They got to spend a lot of years together before, you know, before everyone really started seeing that connection of being almost unstoppable when they lined up. And so, you know, time's going to be one of those things that's going to continue to be our the thing that's going to help us the most, I guess you can just say.
We've been getting to know each other through these games. We've been getting to know each other through the practices. We're still getting to know each other, but I think we're finally starting to like understand one another, and I think it's starting to show and pay off. But I do think that's a really important part of an offense, of a system. It's knowing and understanding your guys and, you know, seeing how they play and all that kind of stuff. So excited for what he's doing. Know he's going to continue to do it.
Courtland Sutton's right. Time does build that, but it also takes it away if we're talking about Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Let's take a look at some of the props for both of these top wideouts tonight. Pretty similar lines. Sutton has gone over his receptions and receiving yards prop in 5 straight games, and Jeudy has done that in 4 straight. Both of their receiving yards props are set at season highs tonight.
Yeah, but if I had to pick one, I think I would absolutely lean towards Courtland Sutton. He's been coming on strong. And look, that defense last year for Cleveland was amazing, statistically #1 overall. They just haven't produced at that level this year. They haven't in any way, shape, or form. I
also think having Surtain just is going to shut down regardless of how good of a receiver you are. I do want to talk about props, or maybe if you do have Njoku on your fantasy team.
I do.
This is a good matchup because we're talking about Cedric Tillman out. Yeah. You're going to have the top receiver in Jeudy on lockdown, right? So Elijah Moore should slide up into that #2 role. But this is a really good matchup because the Broncos are allowing the 9th most targets to tight ends. So knock on wood, I hope it's a good night for you, but it should be good one for Njoku.
I'm down 20, and I've got Sutton and Njoku.
Oh, well, I had Josh Allen last night, and he won it for me. So.
I forgot to replace the Chiefs kicker. That was on me.
Nobody feels bad. Nobody feels bad.
No, they don't.
All right, let's take a look at some of the betting splits for tonight. Almost 70% of the bets on the Broncos to cover despite that number at 6.5. 72%, so even more of the handle on them, the sharp money coming in, as Stormy had mentioned. Bets on the over, lots of money seeing that, just under 60% of the bets. 84% on the bets on the Broncos money line. And look at this, 97% of bets on Courtland Sutton over 68.5 receiving yards.
Yes.
And just a little less of the handle, but still a pretty significant amount, Trey. For more on DraftKings liability, here's our anonymous sportsbook informant, Captain Book.
Well, how did we get here? Jaden Daniels is the de facto Rookie of the Year a few weeks back, and things are looking great. And like a man on fire, Bo Nix gallops into place, puts the captain and his crew on notice. So let's just chalk this one up tonight to another Broncos beatdown and mosey into Week 14 like nothing happened. I mean, it's just one game. Not like the Browns show up for these kind of games. Oh, wait, that's right. Cleveland has only 3 wins, but 2 of them are to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And Denver has only 5 losses, but 2 of those are to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And it is the holiday season. And there was a movie starring Lauren Holly featuring a character, Lloyd Christmas, who was rooting for a long shot, just like a Cleveland upset tonight. And the public's betting action suggests that the true likelihood of getting a big surprise from the Browns tonight is closer to 1 in a million than 1 in 100. But in the words of the incomparable Lloyd Christmas, so you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
I don't mind the connection. Like, I appreciate the lengths to which he got to work Lloyd Christmas holiday, the Pittsburgh and Baltimore thing. I respect the effort. I really
got
do.
there. No, we love you, Captain Buck. Keep it up.
You landed it. Nicely done. All right, for more on this game tonight, let's bring in our big man, former offensive lineman for 11 seasons in the NFL, Marshall Newhouse. Marshall, you know it as a veteran player. You say, oh, great, we're going to start a rookie quarterback. And it didn't start great for Bo Nix, but my God, has he turned it around. What has impressed you most about his maturation process through this season?
I think it has been taking care of the football. He was, as a rookie doing rookie things as far as turnovers and not being secure with the ball, but he's taking care of the football. And that's as much as you can ask for a defense on the other side of the football that's playing exceptional. He doesn't have to do too much. And you can imagine Sean Payton, who I got to play with in 2019, is throwing a lot at this rookie. You can see him processing a lot at the line, but just not putting the ball in harm's way. There's a measurement called EPA, which adjusts for drop passes, drop interception, just overall kind of luck. He's kind of at the bottom of the league, but he's doing more now because that's more front-loaded with a lot of things that happened in the first couple of weeks. He's doing a lot more now just to keep them on the level so their team has a chance to win. He's not taking them out of games. To me, that's pretty impressive.
And luckily, he has an O-line that is one of the best right now in the NFL, generating a 5th lowest pressure rate among, compared to other O-lines in the NFL. The issue is they have to face Myles Garrett tonight, who last time out had 8 pressures, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble in Week 12. That was his 21st game with 8 or more pressures since 2018. That is the most in the NFL. Now, this line is set at 6.5. All of the money is coming in on the Broncos. Is it an exaggeration to say the only way that Cleveland can win this is through Myles Garrett?
That's an exaggeration, but he is a game wrecker. I mean, he's on that level when he's locked in and focused, and you imagine they're coming off a couple extra days of rest, and this is prime time. He's going to be ready to go. Garrett Bowles at left tackle was the guy who I think at a certain point early in his career, we're talking about maybe he was being a bust. He was giving up a short edge there at left tackle, not being consistent in his pass rush. We saw Russell Wilson struggle, other quarterbacks struggle. He has turned it on. He's turned into a very, very good tackle. This offensive line unit is a top 3 unit, which is a wild thing to say. Shout out to Zach Streif, who's coaching the O-line there in Denver. And so, yeah, their hands are going to be full with Myles Garrett. He's going to be juiced up for sure. But the Browns have a lot to offer on defense. They put guys in a lot of precarious situations. But Myles Garrett is going to have to answer the bell. It won't be all on him, but they're going to look to him to make some splash plays for sure.
All right, so the Browns don't have a lot to offer on offense. We've sort of chronicled that. Look, they have played better under Jameis Winston, but you mentioned how stout this Denver defense is. If you're Cleveland or a Cleveland fan, how would you like to see this offense go at that defense?
Listen, I think you just ride the wave of Jameis. Jameis gives and he taketh away. There are explosive plays to be had on this defense. They really lock you in with Patrick Surtain. They really get in your face. They challenge receivers at the line of scrimmage. But Jameis Winston is a guy who can take chances and throw some really good balls. We saw last week in the snow, he threw some really, really incredible balls given the weather conditions. And then he throws the oops, I wish you wouldn't do that. But I think that's who we know him to be. And that's okay right now if you're the Cleveland Browns. You don't have much else to look forward to, so why not ride the roller coaster, in my opinion?
And a big one in terms of the drama, Jameis facing his former coach. On the media side of things, we always love to blow this up. We talk about it as a massive storyline, but when it comes down to the actual game, the game plan, the player versus coach, how much of it is it actually an advantage for the head coach or the player?
I think with the head coach, especially a guy like Sean Payton, who specialized in quarterback and offensive play calling, I think there could be a little bit there. But again, the book is out on Jameis. I'd played on other teams, and for linemen it's a little bit different. Obviously, you wanted to win really bad, but there's not a ton there outside of some incredible just weaknesses in your game. But other teams know that too. I mean, the tape after a certain point is out on you, and so I think outside of just an emotional charge from either side, I don't see there being much of an advantage. But there will be some things that Sean Payton kind of hints to the defense on messing with Jameis Winston's eyes, probably some ticks that he does when he's trying to extend plays that'll put him in some positions to throw them a pick or two. But he's willing to do that on his own. So I don't think that it's this huge advantage, but there are little things there from a history between a coach and a former player.
Yeah, he's going to do that on his own. The only 30-30 man in the history of the NFL when he was with the Bucs, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, same season. Look, right now, if the season ended, which it doesn't, Denver has the 7th seed at 7-5, and everybody chasing them is right now below 500. Indianapolis, Miami, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, their opponent tonight. They feel like they're in pretty good shape to make it into the postseason, and they're going to play everybody, including Cleveland tonight. That is their closest competitors. If they make it in, what are your thoughts on how much noise they can make? Because I can promise you Kansas City does not want to go to Denver week 18 and say we need to win that game to lock down the #1 seed.
Listen, yeah, if you have a stout defense like they have and a veteran head coach who can get guys prepared, that's absolutely a team that you do not want to see that could stub your toe or really just trip you up if you're a higher seeded team going into Denver potentially. Or just getting them in a second round or a weird wild card matchup. So yeah, there's definitely someone who could stub your toe, but I still think that with Bo Nix, as well as he's playing as a rookie, there's a very hard ceiling on them this year, just from a quarterback play standpoint. Yeah, he's throwing the ball a lot. He's improved a lot. But if you have to go win a game, it's going to be their defense that wins it. It's not going to be Bo Nix at this point. I see the projection of him being maybe growing into that guy, but this year it's not that, especially in such a stacked league with Josh Allen, Pat, Lamar, Justin Herbert. I mean, there's just too much in their way right now, but they're definitely in a one-game playoff scenario, definitely a team that I don't want to have to see that defense.
It's tough to win any given Sunday, any given Monday, especially by 6.5 points or more. So what do you think when it comes to this side? Are the Broncos good enough to cover 6.5, Marshall?
I think the Broncos win, but they do not cover.
That's
all
fair
right,
enough.
Marshall, thanks. We'll check back with you a little bit later on. Lots of very interesting things that happened Sunday. We want to get an expert's or a veteran player's opinion on some of the things that we saw happen on the field. We will check back with you a little bit later. Yeah, the cover is interesting tonight, and we'll go into this later. Sean Payton After Dark, numbers aren't great. We'll get to that a little bit later. We have this thing called the data dump. We'll be doing that a little bit later on the show. You might want to make sure you stick around for that because there's some very interesting numbers.
Sean Payton After Dark. I don't think I want to see that. Bo has Broncos fans believing they will end their 8-year playoff drought. We'll take a look at Nix's impressive rookie season and tell you what we already were able to do for bettors for the first time in almost a decade. Him, not us. We're not playing football.
Pregame Power Up is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal.
Welcome back to Pregame PowerUp, presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. The Broncos, 7-5 on the season and holding on to the last playoff spot in the AFC. For bettors who took the over on their win total, you've already cashed that bet. Denver's preseason win total was set at 5.5, so they've hit that over for the first time since 2015. That year, they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Let's take a closer look at the Broncos season. They are 6-0 against teams that are currently below 500 in the 2024 season, but they're 1-5 against teams 500 or better. Their only win against a team 500 or better was against the 6-6 Falcons in Week 11, and that's not all that impressive. With all that said, Bo Nix is playing his best ball at the right time, and as Emerson Lotzie explains, with 5 games left in the season, the rookie quarterback has his fan base Bo-leaving. This is a special season.
The journey to a mile high begins with one step, and another, and another. On the road of life, winners never quit, and quitters never win. And always remember, the most valuable player is the one who makes the other players the most valuable. All you have to do is believe. But as the 6th quarterback taken in this year's draft, there were doubts in Denver on if Nix had the ability to be a difference maker out of the gate. The rookie signal caller started 0-2 with 4 interceptions, but never stopped believing, getting his first airstrike score in the rain in Week 4, throwing for a scintillating 60 yards.
It didn't matter if the weather cleared up. I had to go out there and contribute and be efficient, find ways to get us in the end zone. Find ways to win the game at that point.
Nix is on an unbelievable streak right now, tossing 8 touchdowns to 0 picks in his last 3 games. Dak Prescott is the only other rookie to do that in NFL history. Even his coach, a former saint among men, has become a disciple in the Church of Bo.
You're in good hands. He's smart with the football. He makes plays with his feet. He's got that ability to create, all the while protect the football.
Nix takes his responsibilities as field general seriously, growing by leaps and bounds as a leader every week.
It naturally happens and it occurs, but at the same time, it's because you prepare and you put yourself in that state. You got 10 other guys looking at you, and it's their livelihood, it's their life that you got it literally in your hands. The ball's being snapped to you.
And those hands could be entering even more rarefied air in the mile high. Nix has 5 games with 2 touchdowns and 0 picks, 1 game shy of the all-time rookie record. The passing prophet has his devotee Denver receivers lining up behind him as well, working to get better every week.
Going out to fine-tune the things that we do well, and then also fine-tune the things that we don't do well, so that we can have a repertoire that is very deep and we can do what we want to do when we step out there.
Something else the Broncos would like to do tonight is win their 3rd straight game, or as people in Broncos country call it, going 3-0. And if Nix is able to do such a thing, he will become just the 6th rookie ever to win his first 2 primetime starts. Yeah, baby, it's Bo time.
Thank you, Emerson Lotzie.
The passing prophet, by the way.
The passing prophet, all the love for Bo Nix. So the Bronchies, there we go.
That's a fun team.
It's Monday, baby. Firmly in that 7th spot in the AFC, the last playoff position. Denver has failed to make the playoffs in each of their last 8 seasons since winning the Super Bowl in 2015. That's the longest playoff drought all time immediately following a Super Bowl win. It's also the 2nd longest active playoff drought in the NFL, behind only the Jets, who haven't made it in 13 straight seasons, Trey.
Why do you tee this stuff up for me like that? Why do you tee this stuff up for me? Because the Jets not only have not made it in 13 straight seasons, they have the longest playoff drought of all 4 major sports in North America. Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NBA, and the NFL. And oh, by the way, on Sunday, guess what happened to the Jets? That was the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career he'd been up 14 points in a home game and lost.
Yeah.
75-0 and now 75-1 because he plays for the Jets, Jets. It's just the gift that keeps on giving in the holiday season. And of course, a lot of people thought that Caleb Williams would be having the kind of success that Bo Nix has had, and it's been uneven, but heading in the right direction, for lack of a better term, for Caleb Williams, although it wasn't good the way it ended Thursday in Detroit against the Lions. A lot to get to in that week, but The beginning of it, the first game on Thanksgiving, was the confounding clock management by head coach Matt Eberflus, and quite frankly, the play of Caleb Williams down the stretch. Took some sacks, missed a shallow cross, all this kind of stuff. But with 32 seconds left, the Bears did not use their final timeout as they were driving down 23-20 to try and tie the game. Reports that not only the front office, but the players were emotional and pissed following the game, especially when Eberflus, after the game, said this.
I like what we did there. Again, once it's under 7, you're gonna call timeout there, or actually under 12, and then really you don't have an option. Because it's 3rd to 4th, you got to throw it into the end zone then. So to me, it's I think we handled it the right way. I do believe that you just re-rack the play, get it in bounce, and call timeout, and that's why we held it, and didn't work out the way we wanted it to.
With all due respect, him saying that was worse than what actually happened. Him saying that was the fireable offense. Now, Caleb has shown some serious improvement in recent weeks with an offensive coordinator, now interim coach Thomas Brown. Williams has 5 touchdown passes over the last 2 weeks and hasn't turned the ball over in 6 straight games. But you have to wonder if all the turnover on the coaching staff this season has been detrimental to his development. The Bears have made a habit of drafting what they think is a franchise quarterback and then firing the head coach in the same year. They did it back in 2017. They drafted Mitch Trubisky with the 2nd overall pick. John Fox gone after 2017. They took Justin Fields 11th overall in 2021. Matt Nagy fired after his rookie season. And for the first time in Bears history, they didn't even wait till the end of the season to get rid of Eberflus when they took Caleb Williams number 1 overall. And by the way, speaking of timing, this is what President and CEO Kevin Warren had to say about the timing of the firing and the fact that there was a press conference that Matt Eberflus had on Friday before they fired him.
In retrospect, could we have done it better? Absolutely. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand, yes. But during his press conference and even a couple hours later, we had not reached a decision. But on the flip side of it, something that was important to us is that once we reached the decision, we wanted to make sure to talk with Matt about that so he could have the respect to be able to call his family. And I'll say this, one thing that happened, this is the first time, and it happens around the league a lot, where a head coach will find out he's terminated, and he finds out before he's told from the organization, and that's something that we promised that we weren't going to do.
With all due respect to that, that is a bunch of hooey, okay? Because they knew that he was having that press conference. 100%. So they knew they had to make a decision before he was going to the press conference. So for Warren and Poles to sit up there and say we hadn't made our decision yet, that's the problem. The problem is you hadn't made your decision. You know you had to make that decision before you had him stand up there like a sacrificial lamb and just take the darts, and then you decide to fire him. What a total cluster.
And it makes them look even worse because it's like either you're terrible at communication or you can't make a decision. So should you really be at the head of this?
Well, this is why the Bears do this every other year. And for more on this, let's go back to Marshall. Marshall, that's the thing. Look, I get it. You wanted to tell him I understand all of that. But as an organization, you know that press conference is on the docket. You know you have to make that decision before you trot him out there.
Yeah, it recalls me back to the story of the Windy City. And it's not about it being a windy city through, wind tunnels and all that stuff in the city. It's about the hot air that's blown by leadership in the city. And this is a bunch of hot air. I mean, it could be hooey as well. But yeah that's just, what they did was take all the pressure off the Jets being an abysmal organization, and they took their own turn being an abysmal organization, top down. And I have a lot of respect for Ryan Poles. I think he's done a pretty good job so far as a GM, but team president and they misstepped on this one. It's a lack of respect to Eberflus. Even if you're terminating, there's a way to do it in a dignified way. And it's just a lack of transparency and honesty with the rest of us, because we see what's going on. We all called, that was a fireable offense, that game on Thanksgiving, but there's a way you go about it. And now the next guy that you potentially want to hire has to deal with, maybe they're going to do me like that. Now, Caleb Williams, on the other hand, I think is a quarterback on the rise. I think he will be able to, with the right leadership, realize the potential that we all see with him as a higher pick taken in the first round. So listen, they have a bad track record recently of doing this. They have no reason for us to expect them to do it well, but they do have a chance. This is a new leaf with a new quarterback who is not yet too far tainted, in my opinion, that you can turn things around. But this hiring process has to be so thorough and like present in 2024 and beyond. And hopefully the McCaskies understand that, and then that trickles down and they make a good decision.
It's so true, Marshall. You talk about how malleable rookie quarterbacks are, even if you are a generational talent.
Malleable. Nice.
Thank you, Trey. Even if you are a generational talent like Caleb Williams, if you're going on your third OC in just year 2, and it took them up until 3 weeks to realize, oh, hey, you probably shouldn't hold on to the ball for 3 seconds because then you're going to be facing all this pressure. They just figured that out. I don't think it's too late, of course, because it's so early in his career, but I think all Bears fans certainly happy to move on from the current situation. Niners fans probably looking forward to next year because they're coming off a brutal loss to Buffalo. Not only were they lost, but I think the biggest loss was CMC. Coming back, he was starting to ramp up a little bit. Now he's out, looks like a PCL that could be season ending. And then we find out his backup in Jordan Mason, who looked great, filling in for him, well, he's also on the IR. So this squad went from plus 250 to win the division. Now odds makers are saying, give us all your money. 11-1, there's no chance. So who do you like to actually win this thing in the NFC West now that they're out of the way?
Yeah, that's a tough scene, and it feels like a door slowly gaining steam on closing on a franchise and a window, if we call it. But to me, it's between Seattle and Arizona, and really, it's about who do you trust more. I don't know enough a history about Kyler and Gannon to trust them to finish things out. But Seattle, if you look at the remaining schedule, it is the tough road throughout the rest of the season. I think the Cardinals have an easier schedule to maybe make a run. I will still put money on Seattle and Geno Smith, the more experienced quarterback, and I hope a more experienced head coach in Mike McDonald.
Yeah, at this point with the NFC West, you just say, let me know who's playing Week 18 in the Sunday night game to win the division. That's because you know that's going to be the flex, right? That's going to be the flex game Sunday night. Whoever's going to have whatever matchup's going to decide the division, that's the one that's going to be there. Look, there was an ugly side of the game we saw on Sunday between the Texans and the Jaguars. Azeez Al-Shahir came in and just rocked Trevor Lawrence as he was going down for a slide. He was ejected. There's going to be a suspension. It started a fight, as it should, by the way. What was your reaction to seeing that hit, and especially the reaction to the way the Jaguars' teammates rallied around their fallen quarterback?
Yeah, it was just a tough hit. There's no way to really justify it. He's since come out and apologized. I imagine he'll be fined and suspended, rightfully so. And then, Evan Ingram and the subsequent Jaguars, some of the offensive linemen, rallying to Trevor Lawrence's defense are in the right as well. But here's the thing. He gave himself up. I think that was a pretty clear play. Shahir also led with his forearm straight to this head area.
It was a checklist of everything you can't do.
Yeah, and so I don't think there's a dispute on that. But what is happening is you're seeing guys like Patrick Mahomes, you're seeing Josh Allen, guys who extend plays towards the barrier of the sideline and all the way up to the point where they have to slide, taking these risks with guys assuming that they'll pull up. And eventually they're not going to pull up like Al-Shahir didn't. And so what are we going to do when it's Pat Mahomes who gets laid out on the sideline? I'm not wishing that upon him, but he is absolutely toying with fire, in my opinion. And so I think quarterbacks have to continue to make it clear, and we've got to continue to protect the quarterbacks, which they have and will do.
Certainly a lot of weight to try and stop on a dime. We do understand that, but there's certain ways to go at it. Let's talk about a situation that the Ravens are dealing with that they probably didn't expect. And Justin Tucker, who came into this season with a success rate on field goal attempts over 90%. That was an NFL record. And now he has the second worst behind Greg Zuerlein of all starting kickers here. How big of a problem is this for a Ravens team that is expected to be a contender for the Super Bowl, Marshall?
It's a huge problem because it's ongoing. You saw they just lost by 5 points where he missed field goals and extra points. Trey, you're a golfer. You don't talk about the rhymes with bips.
Nope.
But it seems like that. And it seems like it's a precipitous fall. Like it's out of nowhere. And I don't know how he gets back in time for the playoffs, which they need him desperately. He's been such a asset, a weapon at kicker, which we rarely talk about. And to go from a weapon to a
Liability.
deficit is a huge liability. Yes, it's a huge problem for them.
Yeah, he was the all-time leader at kicks over 50, and now he's one of the worst in the NFL. He was broken in the AFC Championship game when Kelsey threw his stuff away near the goal line. He hasn't been the same since. It absolutely is. Marshall, thanks. You know we like to bring all angles, and we've got a good one for you Browns backers, including Sean Payton's problems in this spot. It's all part of the data dump, and that's how we're going to wrap up this show. Pregame Power Up is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal.
Welcome back to Pregame Power Up, presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. We gave you Next Gen stats. Now it's time for Next Gen Cast.
Makes all the sense in the world to me. First touchdown score, right? Oh, the Emmy's there again.
The Emmy in the presence of
yes,
the
Cortland Sutton. My fantasy team is going to kill it tonight.
All right.
According to Stormy and the cat.
Nobody cares about your fantasy team.
Also true.
Let's take a look at who bettors like to find the end zone tonight. Nick Chubb at the top there. And Njoku, there's your guy, plus 275 for an anytime. And Nix, plus 245. I might have to get that. For more on how people are betting tonight, here's DKN social media correspondent Megan Townsley.
We're rounding out NFL Week 13 tonight with the Browns versus the Broncos. And after an already insane entire weekend of football, I know that the DraftKings Sportsbook betting groups are going to be filled with tons of good bets. That's why I'm here to show y'all some of my favorite for tonight's game. Let's head to the DK Network betting group where Sean Bernard, he is very loudly a Jerry Jeudy fan tonight. He's taking a two-leg parlay, starting with Jerry Jeudy as an anytime touchdown scorer, and then Jeudy's 60-plus receiving yards. And I think it's safe to say that we're agreeing the resurgence of Jerry Jeudy is among us. I can get behind that. I can agree with that. But Kieran Doyle in the same betting group, he built a three-leg parlay on both sides of the ball. So starting with taking the Broncos -6. Quarterback Jameis Winston, 200-plus passing yards, and Javonte Williams as an anytime touchdown scorer. Guess what? 59 people are tailing this bet. That means 59 people are backing Kieran and his parlay. And if you want to do the same, all you have to do to find these groups is open up the DraftKings Sportsbook, then click on the social tab at the top, and then hit the betting groups button. That's what's so sick about these betting groups, and my favorite part is you're not just reading through it like a newspaper. You can interact with them, you can like them, you can comment on them, dislike them if you want. So make sure you go check out these betting groups before the game kicks off tonight.
All right, Megan, thanks. You know what we do at the end of the show. We have so much information into this tight 60-minute show. We can't get it all in, so this is, ladies and gentlemen, the data dump where we just overwhelm you with information. Are you afraid of the dark?
Yes.
Maybe Sean Payton is. Since 2020, with both Denver and New Orleans, Payton is 4-12 against the spread in night games, the least profitable of 58 head coaches in that time frame. Over the last decade, Payton is 4-10 against the spread on Monday Night Football specifically.
That's not great. The Browns have had the most rest that you could possibly have without having a bye. They played on Thursday of Week 12 and now, of course, tonight on Monday of Week 13. Teams with this much rest are 20-17 straight up and 21-13-3 against the spread over the last decade, Trey.
That really is interesting because without a bye, that's the most rest you can have. That's very cool. All right, Bo at his best as a favorite. And he has been so 5 times in his career, 12 starts, and is a perfect 5-0 straight up and against the spread, covering by over 13 points per game. With a win tonight, Bo would be the first rookie quarterback to win and cover his first 6 career games as a favorite in the Super Bowl era.
And those Rookie of the Year odds will get even shorter.
Bingo.
Here's what else we missed on this Monday night matchup. Totals on Monday Night Football are 11-4 to the over this season, going over by an average of over 5 points per game. It's the second best year for Monday Night Football overs in the last 20 years. And how about rookies on Mondays? Overall, they're 23-32-1 straight up. Not great, but since the start of 2022, they are 4-1.
So we got conflicting information there about what to make of Denver tonight.
Long-term, short-term.
I just think they're poised to do something tonight to sort of solidify themselves.
Yep.
But again, here's the most important thing. 3 of Denver's 5 remaining games are against teams chasing them in the wild card. We mentioned this. They got the Browns tonight, the 11 seed. Then they've got the Colts, which are the 9 seed, and then the Bengals, which are the 10 seed. They can bury everybody there. The other problem is the other 2 games are against teams they trail in the AFC West, which would be the Chargers and the Chiefs. So they've got to make hay in games like this tonight where they can distance themselves from all their wildcard competition.
Yeah, and this will be a good matchup like we talked about with Garrett having that pressure. We talk so much about the Broncos defense, but this offense too, not only Courtland Sutton, Devon Vele, a rookie, is coming off of 80-yard, 66-yard game. There is some talent on this Broncos offense outside of Bo Nix.
And we'll see if Bo can spread the wealth. That's it for us. Speaking of spreading the information, we tried to give it to you from Claudia, Emerson, Marshall, and everybody else, even Captain Book. I'm Trey Wingo. Thanks for watching the Pregame PowerUp, and we'll hope you enjoy the game. And we'll see you on Thursday for a big one in the NFC North.